Get that rattlesnake away from my kneecap. No matter how many, what do they call it, rattlesnake bites, where they're just spicy jalapeno cheese filled peppers. Call me Julius, cause I'll be in your Hall of Fame. Oh, I wish she had 118 sacks on me. Football. Yes, preseason has started. No one watched the Hall of Fame game. The most interesting thing about preseason football is Hard Knocks. And I've been a Hard Knocks consumer. Knock, knock, who's there? Woody. To infinity and beyond. That's kind of high expectations. I wouldn't want to last infinity. I mean, if I had an infinity car, not, well, the brand. I don't know if you'd want a car with infinity miles. That would be dangerous. Could you imagine if there was no cost, you could just drive your car infinity? The trouble we would get ourselves into. It's almost like having gas in a vehicle is a way to regulate human behavior. Wow, look at Clint coming up with theories. Sorry for my quiet tone. It's late at night. The ladies got to be up early. I got home late. But you know what? I haven't done this in 2 weeks. You know what you haven't done in 2 weeks? Listen to me, man. I care about y'all. See, just been a busy man. Busy. But yeah, maybe that's why we have gas tanks, more than the, motor efficiency and so the car can operate. What if we were able to create a vehicle that can literally just drive infinitely? Doesn't have to be charged. You don't have to put anything in it. You could just keep driving it. I don't think that would be a good thing. One, we would have too many people on the road all the time. People would be doing too many things, right? All the money we spend on gas to kind of, put us in our place in society. Or maybe cars would just be so infinitely more. Like, what would be a minimum car? Like, a Toyota Camry, you probably pay like $28,000 to $30,000 for the full value. Well, probably a little less than that. But if these cars were infinitely, would it be $150,000? Because what we spend in gas over a lifetime probably equates to buying like 6 or 7 vehicles anyways. So these things are just ways to, conspiracy, as people would say. It's all an inside job, corporate America. It's all just a way to control our actions. It's a socialist control. Speaking of. So apparently, I don't get into politics, at least often. But Kamala has hired the guy who looks like from the 700 Club as her VP. Now, I'm not talking about Vienna. Poontang. I don't know why. I feel like there's a million things I could have said. But yeah, Mike Walls, I think, or Tim Walls. I don't even know the fucking guy's name. You know why? Because it doesn't fucking matter. But yeah. And there's already conspiracies out there that she picked him over another woman because she actually wanted a chance of winning. And that sounds terrible, right? Because I think there was this associate or someone from Congress in Minnesota. I think she was a woman. She is a woman. And having 2 women on the same team, just optically, if you're playing the numbers, is probably not going to work in your favor. Because we're going to be honest, 95% of men probably aren't going to vote for that. And that sounds bigoted. It sounds very misogynist. But at the same time, you gotta look at it from their perspective. they're playing a numbers game. They're playing the odds. Regardless if it's the right or the wrong thing, they know it's not going to give them a chance. So, but hey, that's why you learn from a very young age. It's not always about who's the best candidate. It's not always about who would actually be best served to serve this position. It's, let's just give ourselves a chance. That's really what this is about. So yeah. I dressed really nice today. Not often do I, wear a button-up shirt. No more than 2 buttons on a shirt. That's simply my rule of thumb, I gotta say, though, these button-up tuxedo sleeve things, fortunately mine fit pretty well. But goddamn, the cuffling things, the button-up with the things that go around your wrist that you have to button up, it is so fucking obnoxious to do by yourself. Gotta find the button, balance it out, and then it pops out every fucking 8 steps you take, Why do people dress like this? I don't get it. Why? I understand professionalism. I understand looking the part, it does matter. But why do we do this to ourselves? We could literally just change it. Just be like, hey, just say, how do we know that you're important here? Just wear a shirt that say, I'm fucking important. But hey, you gotta make a splash. You gotta impress them, especially when you're underqualified. There's some harsh truth and reality. But you know what? Sometimes, have you ever applied for a job that you have no chance or very little chance, but you get the interview and you just feel better for the fact that you gave yourself a chance? You feel better for the fact that these people in the room, they know I'm interested. Whether there's people with years and years of more experience or people who have more of an inner tight circle, they may have more connections, they have built more relationships. You can't control that. But what you can control is you put in an application. They approved you for an interview for a legitimate position. That means something, And it kind of is a good feeling, It's not even about who cares if you get the job or not, Who cares if it increases your financial implications 30%? Who cares? But no, I think there is value to just doing something that you haven't done in a while. I think it's important to just practice going on interviews, because what I realized doing it today is, you're nervous going in. I was pretty prepared for what I wanted to get out of it. You got to think on your feet for the questions, scenarios they give you, and all that stuff. That's how most interviews are these days. It's very situational to whatever the job is, at least if they do a real process. But once you do it, once you're a couple minutes in, you're like, if I just did this often, I would be a master at this. And I would probably be undeniable. Where it's man, that was a really, man, he has about 8 less years of experience than everyone else, but he looks the part. He talks the part. He's convincing. He's beautiful. I know. Sometimes you got to hype yourself up. As Drake would say, I got to turn my bitch up. And that's why I'm spending hours in silence tonight. And so is Drake when he drops his 100 gigabyte unreleased footage, which is kind of random. It's I understand you're a public figure. I understand that everything you make has to be, it's important to document it, maybe just for your personal. vintage tapes that you look back on when you go through every album you've made. The process, how much you've changed. Like sometimes you need that reference of what it looks like to be motivated, you know, to bring that spark up again in you. It's kind of weird. Like those years and years, like this man probably could have made a fucking documentary of making these classic albums, and people would have ate that shit up. Went to the movie theaters. Like, fuck these, you know, Justin Bieber live concert. Forget these Usher. Now he has got a live concert documentary thing. You know? Because I would sit there at a movie theater and I would pay. I hate to say it. This maybe goes to show you how much of a gulper I am of Drake. Trust me. You with me or what? It is fascinating, though. The timing is pretty odd. I think it's kind of to bring people back to the basics with him, you know. Like, life I wasn't always getting shit on. I was the one that everyone counted out. But now I'm so on top that everyone's trying to bring me down. And it's a weird thing, because he leaked it. It's not really a secret. So, I don't know. 100 gigabytes. I don't know if that's a lot. I feel like it's a lot more than 100 gigabytes because it was like hours of footage. But yeah. Anywho. Yeah. I guess the moral of all that is, you know, even Drake had to apply. I don't think Drake's ever worked a job outside of Degrassi and, you know, but, you know, sriracha noodles, I can still taste it. Welcome to episode 293 of the Off of Me podcast with Clint Nelson. I'm your host, Clint Nelson. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Most important, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to suck some titties. I went from 0 to 100 gigabytes real quick. Recording this on August 9th, 2024 at 2:02 a.m. Eastern for the archives. Yeah. But yeah. You know, not to get too sentimental here, I'm going to keep this episode shorter than usual because my camera percentage is not at full. But because I'm going to make it more like, oh, I'm going to convince you. No, you know what? I made it shorter because you know what? I wanted to have my message be condensed. Let you know I'm serious. It's like really just my battery is kind of low and I just been at work all fucking week and it's been 2 weeks since I recorded. So I would like to have some time. So yeah. But leadership and engagement, you know, sometimes you go into things, you have an idea of what it is, you try to apply it, and then in real time, through trial and error, you think you figure shit out. I'll tell you what else is scary. These surveys, these classes you take about these things, when they do these like surveys and you answer honestly, and they calculate and generate your results of what type of leader you are, you're looking at it and you're like, man, that ain't true. And then you actually read it, you're like, you really start thinking about yourself. You're like, huh, that's actually exactly how I do shit. Huh, that is more of my style, you know? It's crazy. Engagement. Trust me, once you put a ring on it, it's, as Drake would say, speaking of Drake, ringing like I got engaged. Ringing like I got engaged. I forgot what song that was. But it's probably one of those hype future songs. Oh, what a time to be alive. But yeah, engagement. Really learning how to lead. I've also been really into these, more of these like production podcast, these more philosophical. Typically, I like to listen to podcasts that are like interview based, that are kind of lighthearted, but with some seriousness. They talk about some reason in the past, ever since I took a week off, I've been really into, as corny as it sounds, really into the perspective type of podcast. Really the speaking to people who talk about, who are experts, but they're not really experts. They're like public speakers, or they're entrepreneurs, and they have a lot of theories and takes about life, how to live your life type of people, you know. I've been listening to like a Diary of a CEO, Rich Roll podcast. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts that interview quote unquote successful people, talking about the realities of success and all that stuff. And it's not because I care to have that success label, but I think it's very important to really get outside point of view of what it's really like. And kind of going back to this engagement leadership course I've taken, it's really made me reflect on how I interact with people. I was listening to some earlier, and it says, sometimes it's good to take your work home with you. If you're applying good things at work, let's say you're in one of these positions, right? And you learn to be really good at conflict resolution in a workplace. Why would you not take those things home with you? When the basis of a marriage, especially when you have kids and stuff like that, is conflict. There's no such thing as a successful marriage that didn't have conflict. It's about being able to resolve conflict. So that's why the importance of a work culture is paramount. You have a good work culture, you're going to have good people that take those values home with them. And then they're going to be better husbands, they're going to be better partners, they're going to be better parents. When you are in a negative or a very stressful work culture, they're going to take that home. People are going to take that home with them. And because of the amount of time we're attached to our jobs, how much we think about our jobs and stuff like that outside of work without even trying, you're going to have an attachment. You're going to translate things. So you might as well translate the good stuff. That's why it's important to be good at your fucking job. Typically, people who are bad at their job are not good partners. Typically, people that are bad at their jobs are typically not really great people, as weird as that may sound. But anyways, listening to him, this Simon Sinek dude, it really did open my eyes about some things. You know, it was like this weird, like, just 3 or 4 days. It's just been this eye-opening of listening to people. I've really learned to listen and shut the fuck up. But the issue is, I have a show where I have to talk. So now you need to listen and shut the fuck up. And listen to my jaded point of view of the world. And this is how we do it. So, but yeah. That is where the cookie crumbles. And crumble cookie is a ripoff. Never had it, but it just is. But that's the thing, right? It's unhealthy to be attached to what pays you because you feel obligation to it. You start getting attached to how you engage with people, and you take that home with you. And you take that to your personal life. And you may not even realize it. And I realize that engaging with people has made me learn how to actually engage with humans outside of the place. It's weird to say humans, like I'm a fucking cat or something. But you're much more mindful of how you're perceived taking those courses. You're much more mindful of how Like your eye contact with people, how you present yourself, how you come across. Are you overexerting your presence, or are you letting people be themselves in your workplace, but you've created a barrier and structure to make sure there's a structural freedom? So it's a tricky thing because there's never one right answer, but you know it when you see it. So, I don't know. I found that interesting. But you know what else is interesting? Today's sponsor is an old-time friend, always reliable, and inflation prices are fucking insane. But Dunkin', yes. Today's flavor is mocha, because I know you want more of cock. More cock! Who needs Mo Vaughn when you got Mo Cock? As a baseball reference. I didn't even know Aroldis Chapman was still in MLB. Apparently, he just threw a 105-mile-per-hour pitch with the Pirates. Our matey. Wouldn't want to swing on that plank. But yeah. Plank, tank. Don't get a shank. If you were to get ranked, girl, I got a crank. Damn. Time to spank. Nice spanks. Forrest Gump, Tom Hanks. Thanks. Want to go see the Yanks? Rubber band. Nothing but banks. Alright, I'll stop. Let that shank in. So yeah. Also, this is a true story. I wrote it down in my notes like a week ago. And this is how you know something sticks with you. When you almost can't believe it. So, I went to a traditional Chinese takeout place. So, as you may expect, the employees were, Chinese. Didn't speak much English, but, the guy they on the counter speaks perfect English. It's almost like they know what they're doing. So, I go in there, and there's this older man and a older woman. It kind of seemed like they were not really friends, but almost like she was his sponsor, or like they definitely weren't husband and wife. You could kind of pick that up. It was almost like he was a patient of hers. Like she was a social worker, but she was actually personally hanging out. He kind of seemed a little bit on the spectrum. He paid for the meal, telling her what the tip out loud, which is kind of awkward. Saying, put the tip on there. Because if you don't, they're just going to write whatever in. And it's like, well, damn. It went from you wanted to do a nice thing to I'm going to tip them so they don't write in their tip. It's like, well, Jesus. But this man, while they are waiting for their food and while I'm waiting for my food, I'm sitting at the table nearby. And I'm not exaggerating when I tell you this. So they already started talking about Trump, Kamala, and I'm like, oh, I know where this is going. And it went exactly where you think it did. To some racial things, not necessarily racist per se, but a lot of, well, Kamala's going to get all the black votes, and I mean, Biden can't even remember who's, they're saying all these things that are kind of out of pocket, but it's like, I don't know, are they right? Whatever they're talking about. But then they start talking about the Chinese, their pollution. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, do you not know where you're at? First of all, like, this is how you know you are entitled and blatant as an American. You go voluntarily into a Chinese takeout place that is predominantly run by Chinese people. It's not stereotyping. This is just what it is. This is the observation. This is the place you're in. We're not at Panda Express. We're not one of these chain Chinese places that is dry and unflattering. We are at a legitimate takeout. And with like no filter, this dude is just talking about, deal like the government's associated with China. And she's like, well, that's because the Chinese, and he's like, well, that's what happens when you let them cross the border, and all this shit. I'm like, uh-oh. And start talking about the borders, start talking about Chinese immigration and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, well, without that, these restaurants probably wouldn't be too available to you. But talking about shitting, it's like going to someone's house and loving their food and appreciating the artwork and then be like, yeah, but you only have all this because, you had some visa rights, It's like, okay. But these people actually did something. They created a business. They work fairly. They work legally, which is typically people's argument against that. And then this man just starts going on and on about the Chinese shouldn't be here. All they're doing is causing pollution. I'm like, what? And then literally like 5 seconds after he says that, the dude comes out with the food. And he's like, oh, thank you so much. And like the dude's just, I'm like, these people have like, and I think they were going to some like county. They were going to some like, they have like those random, you'll see signs out there where it'll be like your district speak, where it's like at 7:00 open house of speaking, where everyone goes there, they speak about their concerns, issues about the county and stuff like that, whatever that shit's called. I think they were going one of those, but it had to do with something political. And imagine going there with some Chinese takeout and be like, oh yeah, this is good, but the Chinese spare ribs, It just amazed me how much people lack awareness, though. I don't understand how you can have issues with certain people or make stereotypes or make generalizations and then eat their food that's from the place. Like, if you're not about, you don't have to love a culture, but if you're going to hate on the people that make X, Y, Z, then don't be a part of what they have provided for us, Like, I love the Chinese, That sounded odd as fuck. But you know what? They've done a lot of good for me. Chinese takeout used to be affordable, but now it's starting to, once you start paying $12 to $13, you're getting a little. Chinese food should always be in the single-digit dollar signs, but that's neither here nor there. Just PO, not pissed off. Personal opinion. Is that what a PO box is? No, that's probably post office box. Or piece of shit box. Piece of box. PO box is a piece of box. Let me get a piece of box, baby. Better have a PO box than a BO. Nope, just me. All right. Girl, shake that Rappy Taffy. Rappy? There's a joke on this back. Ooh, I love me a good banana Laffy Taffy, I used to miss those. But I don't eat enough candy. But I love candy. Candy paint on my apple cherry Chevelle red. Yep. Yeah. A lot going on, We always got issues in the world. But the biggest issue is simply you, right? It's always you. And it's always weird because we have this lens of what's happy or unhappy, you know. Everyone's idea of happiness is this is a very blown, way over talked about subject. But I felt it was necessary to have another fucking person talk about it. Happiness within itself is overrated. I know. Sounds like I don't care about your happiness. But when you really think about what happiness is, it's really just whatever you want to convince yourself. Happiness is just what you choose to be unhappy about. You know, obviously there's extreme situations, you know, where it's like, hey, I was kidnapped, thrown in a truck, hanged upside down in someone's basement, blood rushing in my face. It's kind of hard to find too much optimism there. But, you know, you can always be like, yeah, but, you know, I've never seen the furnace upside down before. You can always find something, right? But happiness. It's really... I think our mind is always looking towards the next thing, right? And though sometimes I think it's a psychological trick we play on ourselves that when we just want change, we find things that are unhappy, the forces change. Because if you're happy and you're content and you change, you're afraid to fuck it all up. And because what if you become stressed by making the change? Then all of a sudden, man, I didn't have to do that. Now I'm unhappy because of whatever this has brought to me. So it's always odd. Because unhappiness is just this point of view. Happiness within itself is not necessarily going to improve your life, at least in most cases. It just makes it where you will enjoy certain things in your life more. It makes it where you give things more opportunity. Things may be more fruitful. You may perceive things. You react to things. Things feel more natural. And I think unhappiness, in the way we look at it, it can be a distraction. It could be something that takes over your symptoms, takes over your mind, kind of takes over what matters. And that's where it could get tricky. But happiness, like just being happy, the way we think about it. I know plenty of unhappy people that get shit done, and plenty of happy people that do nothing for no one. One thing these leadership courses have really instilled in me is, are you a giver or a taker? Takers are always happy because they never are drained of giving. But takers will always find what they don't have and take from others. Givers will drain themselves, have nothing else to give you, and be content with that because they know they did everything they could. Now they're drained of energy. They may not feel there's light at the end of the tunnel. Like, fuck, what more do you want me to do? But there's an acceptance with it. So the taker comes off as more happy because they got, quote unquote, what they needed. The giver is much more unhappy in the present state because they've given everything they could. They're drained. But the thing is when you give, when you sleep and you're re-energized, you're always going to be 1% stronger, 1% better, because you know that you have contributed to something beyond yourself. And that's something that improves the human psyche a lot more. Because you know in the back of your head, you're someone that people can rely on. You're someone that can lead. You're someone that when people need something, you're one of the first people they come to for something. They need to know something. They're curious about something. They come to you. When you're a taker and you just expect, let's say you're a leader of a group. If you just expect everyone to do what you tell them and not consider what they get out of it and not consider how much energy they're spurting, how drained they may be after doing what you've asked of them to do. But because of, quote unquote, your title, you just feel people should blindly do what you need them to do. You're a taker, even though you're giving instructions. You're not evaluating, you're not taking into account someone's individual prowess or issues potentially. You're just, this is like, I need this. If you don't want to do it, then fill in the blank. They simplify everything. Because when you're a giver and you're in that unhappy state, there's a lot of process that leads to that. The overthinking, it drains you even more. You're thinking so much about before, during, and after. Where when you're taking, you're just thinking about then. When you're just taking, you're just worried about then and not later. And that you don't think anything about. So you're not going to be stressed. You're not going to think about anything. But you're not going to have that gratifying feeling. It's like chasing a high every day. But the more and more you do something, the less high it gives you. If you become so consumed with caffeine, it's going to take more and more caffeine just to level you out. And it takes time to detox your body to get that similar feeling of caffeine when you do like start drinking it again or consuming it again. That's why it takes a while for people to change. People can change. People can become unhappy, happy, vice versa. But it really does take time to go from being one way to another. So yeah, I think that's what they call code switching. No, I think that's simply when people are talking about race lingo. But yeah. I got a few more minutes. I'll end this at the 40-minute mark today. Here's the message I want to leave with y'all today. It's a saying. Damn, I wish I actually had the saying with me. So I'll just make up a saying. You know what I'm saying? Those who fall will reach heights those who fall will reach heights farther than how far they fell. Those who never fall will always be a dwarf, because they will always shrink down to their limitations. So no matter how high their torso gets, their arms shorten. And then they have a short lifespan. I think that's the saying. Oh, Tommy Bahama. Alright. You know what? I didn't want to call it a raps. Unlike Future, who doesn't rap or wrap it up. Alright. Come here, you little Rockefeller. Just curious to the ladies out there. If you are 100% happy with your man, but a Rockefeller, one part of the Titan family group, they have a life insurance that will cover you and your next 8 generations of family. Would you leave the one you love for that? I think it's hard, it ain't me being cynical, but I would be mad if you didn't leave me for people with that much royalty, how much that could change you and your family generation. You always adopt a kid to feel happy. Look, I'll impregnate you. He takes care of the child. And then we'll have our secret play dates you don't have to know about. That's the way to do it. Let me impregnate you. You get married to the Rockefeller. Take his fucking money. Then we live happily ever after. That's the way to do it. Neither of us will have to work again. So yeah, that was episode 293 of the Offbeat Podcast with Clint Nelson. I'm your host, Clint Nelson. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Most important, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to suck some titties. Yeah. Have a great day, morning, night, evening, but most importantly, if you're feeling lonely, just know I'm not going to hug you at night. There's nothing wrong with being a lonely guy or gal. It's only a problem when you feel that it's other people's responsibility to make you feel less lonely. But I'm lonely if you are. If you are. Alright, I'll see you guys. Probably record an episode tomorrow. This was just a quick one to get out there. Let you know that I'm still alive, fine and thriving. I didn't record 5 episodes. I didn't post 6 days straight just to take a week and a half off. It's been a crazy, fucked up couple weeks. But yeah, here we are. Alright, meet.